Welcome back to Your Geek News. Right in time for Halloween is our review of the follow-up to a flick that creeped the bejesus out of us last year.
We're talking about Paranormal Activity, and it was the scariest movie I have seen in my life.
I thought it was pretty terrifying as well, which is why when I heard there was a Paranormal Activity 2, I wasn't sure whether to be excited that we were getting more of that visceral experience or concerned that it was going to cheapen the original.
Well, it's all coming out in our review here, so let's take a look at it first as a movie in its own right, and then as a follow-up to last year's thriller.
The movie was clearly set up as another found footage flick, but they changed it up ever so slightly in that the movie was caught on multiple security cameras instead of some dude's camcorder.
And it was great to see that each camera had that slight Dutch tilt to it, making it a little bit creepy and off-putting all on its own.
Now there was a lot more characters in this one, which added a little more dynamic interaction than the first movie.
Again, we were not expecting Oscar-winning performances since these are regular people.
But it was pretty obvious which role or voice each character was representing for the audience.
Exactly. You've got Christy, who was pretty much Katie all over again, that paranoid sort of protagonist character, the believer, if you will. And then you've got Dan, who's kind of a bit less of a jackass than Mika was, but, you know, that steadfast skeptic.
Now, Dan's daughter was an interesting addition since her optimistic curiosity that the spirit was her mother was how the audience got new exposition through the whole story. So
absolutely. And then you've got the dog, Abby, and the prize baby, Hunter. Now, they're extra creepy because they're sort of reacting and perceiving things that obviously can't show up on camera. So
which
there's
is like that, yeah, exactly.
that extra
stuff that
creep.
People know,
yeah.
right? Like animals and babies can see things that grown-ups can't, right?
And so can Hispanic people.
Oh my gosh, the Hispanic maid, who I knew was going to play that superstitious old woman as soon as I saw her, although I wasn't expecting exorcist to be part of her resume.
But every nanny's resume should include exorcist.
Yeah,
come on.
Exactly. Well, with all these people on the screen, the dialogue between the characters was decently well written, actually.
Absolutely. And with a creepy film like this, you need to have those sort of moments to let the tension off, and those comedic beats really worked in this one. The pool cleaner doing it, that was hilarious. That was a really good MacGuffin.
Yeah, it was good.
But I've got to say, Release the Kraken? Come on. This movie was supposed to be based in 2006 as found footage, and that was a 2010 movie.
Okay, well, you know what? How about we actually get into the scary parts of this movie?
All right, fair enough. We did get to see some damn creepy stuff on camera. The special effects were pretty neat. We got to see Christy being dragged down the stairs.
That was extreme and creepy. Or when the baby is being dragged across the crib by some unforeseen power. Yeah, it just made me lose my shit.
Oh, yeah. It was great. And honestly, when the cupboards exploded, you jumped out of your seat, and I swear my jaw was on the ground for a minute.
My body was buzzing. I mean, the scare tactics, they were scary, but they were cheap. I mean, when you used to get those chain emails that were just vehicles to some scary face and booming shriek, it had the same effect, essentially.
The fact that this is basically a big Where's Waldo hunt all over again, they're just trying to catch you off guard. It's a low blow. It is. It works.
It works, exactly. Although considering Paranormal Activity 2 somehow had a narrative that was unexpectedly complex enough to intertwine with the first, let's take a look at this movie as a follow-up.
As you're watching the film, you quickly realize that the main female character, you've heard about her before. It's the sister of Katie, who was possessed in the first Paranormal Activity.
Now, it was kind of cool to see that the two movies actually tied together narratively. I mean, it was as in-depth as a found footage movie could possibly be, but it was fun that Mika made a couple of appearances as well, and there was some continuity, which made this actually feel bigger.
Yeah, it was weird. The fact that the timeline of Paranormal Activity 2 sandwiches the first movie, it was something we figured out slowly.
Exactly.
It begins with Christy and Dan's family, and then sort of leads into Katie's possession.
Which is Paranormal Activity 1, and then it
finishes up after Mika's death.
And it had us wondering whether it was a prequel or a sequel until the death of Mika Sloat card came up.
Yes, it ultimately makes it an equal, I guess?
I don't know exactly. It's hard to say because they happened kind of around the same time. I don't know. A lot of the same scare tactics were borrowed from the first movie, like the return of the Godzilla house kick and throbbing sound design every time something creepy was about to happen.
Then you know what? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. The Ouija
works.
board being a part of the communicating with the spirit,
Yes.
that worked in the first film, so it was extra cool having it here. I was waiting for it to light on fire. Didn't happen.
Exactly. And I really enjoyed that mythos element again. I mean, sure, it came out in the same way as the first movie where someone's researching it on the internet,
Yep.
but who cares? I mean, I liked learning about why the demon was so interested in Hunter because he's the first male born into Christy and Katie's family in decades.
And welcome to 2010. I mean, the movie should incorporate what's happening now. And it's like in a horror film when no one remembers they have a cell phone. It's like, oh, come
Or
on.
no one knows the word zombie.
Yeah, so it was nice that this took place in the real world because I
Exactly.
would look up a
I would look it up on the
horrible
internet, too.
beast that's on
Totally.
in my house. Why not? Although it was pretty awesome realizing that Katie's demonic possession was directly
Oh,
because of the
gosh.
exorcism. It was planned, essentially,
Yeah.
because of what Dan did. And
Yeah.
showing Katie's childhood photo getting burned up was cool. It explains how that happened, but how did it get to their house in the first
In the
movie?
first movie. Who
That's just weird.
knows? But I mean, you know what? Demonic possession, who knows about that as well, right? All in all, the film was terrifying and clever in the way it incorporated the first movie into it. So, good for you.
But was it as scary as the first? For me, this sort of suffered from the Matrix effect. The first movie is where they introduce the world and the aesthetic, and it gives you the mind job as an audience member. But by the second movie, that's already happened. Those elements are not new anymore. And it had to do more in the story department. And by all rights, this is a better film. But I've already had this viewing experience once before, so that made the better film suffer.
Yeah, you're right. That argument works. For me personally, it just wasn't as cool. I mean, sure, it was creepy, but it could never replace that experience of the first time you watched it and that anxiety-inducing sensation. Oh,
Absolutely.
No way.
All in all, it's nothing unique being in this world a second time around, but it's definitely a film that's going to get you jumping out of your seat.
Definitely. And perfect for the Halloween season.
So remember to keep your eyes right here for a look at all your geek movies and all your geek games from the two geeks who always have something to say.
And you can keep up with all our past previews and reviews and have your say on yourgeeknews.com.